The Splitting Hairs Podcast. Go big, go blue, go Jacks.
Welcome to the Splitting Hairs Podcast, presented by the Wild Hair of Brookings, South Dakota. Remember, this is the podcast where San Diego's not a state, Bison spelled with an S, and Wile E. Coyote never gets it done in the end. We got a special guest today, Dan Jackson. Coach, how are you?
It's good to see you, man. I'm doing great.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, right? I bet the last 2 weeks, last month has kind of seemed like 10 years all jammed into one.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's just trying to get small wins every day, kind of just have a plan, set a plan, execute a plan. And it's been a lot of fun. And especially just like learning some of the new things within a new role. Anytime you go from a position coach to a coordinator, or you get move around in an off season and now you become a head coach, you kind of learn about everything that goes into it. And it's everything that I thought it would be. It's been fun. There's been challenges, but to be real with you, Kyle, I'm having a blast right now.
That's good, man. Cause there's a lot of opportunity to embrace, but there's a lot of change and there's a lot of definitely perceived instability, right? When there's a big shakeup like this, mainly from the fan base, right? The fan base is going through the 5 stages of grief. They're kind of they were wallowing for a little bit, but I think with the understanding that Justin Sell is still the AD and he's been the AD for quite some time now, pushing up towards the better part of 2 decades. So when you have that kind of leadership from the top down, he's going to steer the ship in the right direction. He knows the DNA that's gotten us to a successful point already. And so talk a little bit about that, I guess, from the lay fans' perspective and former players. What's that like when those calls are going out, and what are the steps in the process? I'm sure just any interview, there's vetting. Then does it go to the Board of Regents? Obviously he had to talk to President Barry Dunn. What's that kind of like?
Yeah, the process in this one was a little crazy just because in today's world of college football, if a coach leaves, the urgency to be able to get a new coach in is high, clearly with the transfer portal. But if you're an athletic director and you rush it, you get the wrong guy, then clearly there's going to be massive issues down the line for you there. So Justin and I have stayed in contact a little bit over the years, and I've always admired him for his hustle and his vision for South Dakota State, also his consistency. I mean, Justin's had to have had opportunities. He loves it in Brookings. He's a talented guy that, just look around and see what he's done with the football facilities and the vision for the program there. I mean, I'm walking around the basketball arena for the first time that I've seen any of those things. So, the process really was for us in this one, as I was actually back home in Omaha celebrating the holidays, and I was just going to be there a few days and then head back to Albuquerque to get back to work. And it starts with a phone call, starts with he and I just reconnecting and talking about the job and kind of just even hearing my vision out just immediately and my thoughts and engaging interest. And then from there, it's pretty standard, to spend some time with the president and talk to the president. The cool thing in my situation is I knew both the athletic director and the president pretty well, and I knew exactly what they were about, and they know what I'm about. But we just got a chance to reconnect and then share our thoughts on where the program needs to continue to go and how we can take it further. And so really after a phone call, and then my dad I didn't have a car. I was in Omaha. When I fly back, I don't have a car. So my pops drove me up here to meet with Justin and President Dunn. And then after that, a day or less than 24 hours later, you're getting offered the job. And, I didn't want to wait too long. I was just getting really anxious and excited to talk to the players because I knew I wanted the job, but I knew that every minute that was going by was presenting more challenges. So took the job, and within 30 minutes of me accepting the job, I was on a Zoom with the entire team and got to see them. And it was short notice for those guys. It was actually New Year's Eve. So I'll never forget, this New Year's Eve. And then worked in Omaha for a couple days to get things going. But I was working down there, and then I've been up here ever since.
Nice, man. So then that's probably a good point for just any common person, outside of coaching to take note of, laying that groundwork, throughout the process, wherever your stop may be down the line. if you have greater aspirations of a different opportunity that may come about in the future, you always want to remain connected. And that's kind of one of the things that intrigued me about you all the way back, like in 2012, when you first became a GA. I think I was doing some student assisting stuff when we were building out the camp. And I was like, who's this guy? He's got all the depth. He's got a little bit of whiz to him. You know, it was 2012. We were both younger. I'm like, he's going to cut into the dating pool here. Like, it's going to be tough, right? But just the way you were connecting, just even with the other coaches on the staff, the student assistants, just everybody, I was like, this guy's definitely got that mayoral spirit where he's a connector. So then you fast forward, you make a couple stops along the way. We briefly stayed in contact. You know, I always like to just try to encourage Jacks wherever they go, whether it's former players or, coaches who have aspirations. Vince, I hit him up when he was a head coach at, Jefferson, encouraging him and just little things like that down the road. But then when I was in Nashville not too long ago, a few years ago, just didn't want to be a burden on your staff there and was just bopping through the facility. And you just open up the doors, man. And I think that speaks volumes to your ability to just be available. And from with former players and just random guys to that program, right? At Vanderbilt at the time, and for you to be transparent about your vision too, because I wasn't naive to the fact that the Jacks had a ton of success. And if you look at Coach Stig's lineage throughout the years, he was constantly having to replace high quality coordinators, assistant coaches, you name it. So, just asking you, hey, what are your thoughts down the road? Is this something that you'd have your sights on? To hear you play the humble card, but also not mince words that if it came about that you would definitely jump at that opportunity to now see it come to fruition, man, I think it's exciting for the Jacks. I think if anything, they should be encouraged by it from a number of things, and a couple things I want to get into that really highlight more your strategy from a coaching perspective. Yep. So a lot of people feel a lot of doom and gloom when it comes to the junior college ruling now, where none of that participation counts towards their eligibility at a 4-year institution. Then you look at the 105 rule, the 105 scholarship rules. For those who don't know, and maybe you can highlight this if I miss anything, they have to provide 105 full scholarships. So guys like Isaiah Stallbird and other high quality, high caliber athletes that might be a tweener when it comes to a scholarship are now going to be feeders, in my opinion, to FCS powers. So in what would seem like a dark time, there's a lot of opportunity. Maybe speak to a little bit of that and how you see that moving forward. First,
people need to get out of the darkness, and they need to wait, because we have great kids on this team. We have a lot of talent. We have the best coaching staff in the country. Wait till there's a few more guys to get hired. And I don't mean this in any sort of controversial way. We got better at every position. Get to know these coaches. And to me, we should have all sorts of optimism around here, truly. And the new rules and landscape of college football that you touched on, the junior college thing, there's some odd wording there that hasn't been cleaned up yet. So the junior college rule is for guys that just last year. So when you really read it, it's if they exhausted their eligibility last season and they had played non-NCAA, it's even NAIA, which actually was affecting a kid at Idaho that became a really good player for us, that he got another year back from NAIA. It would have affected like a Freeman. Had he been a graduate last year, Freeman would have got another year. But he doesn't, because it was this year, and they have not yet decided what that looks like going forward. So next year, it may not be the same. A guy that was in junior college may not just get an instant year back, but I do think it's trending that way. And I like junior college players. I know we haven't been big in junior college, too many, but I think junior college kids, what people don't understand is there's an immediate like they think, well, this kid that wasn't smart, so he didn't go out, or he's a bad kid. The reality is a lot of these kids just didn't have the opportunities because of COVID or the portal or whatever it may be, and they went to a junior college. And if you go to a JUCO, majority of them don't pay for your housing. There's no scholarships. There's no food. I mean, there is, that kid loves football. There's kids at JUCOs that are taking a bus an hour and a half to go to practice. So I want to make sure that we still have, maybe it's the Kansas JUCO, certainly Iowa Western with Blackburn down there, and Strohmeyer are going to be a place we hit. And and then the 105, that is you're spot on there. The Power Fours, really this is all a Power Four. The top 40 schools that are 30 college football programs, they're kind of running the show with some of the rules. And they went to the revenue sharing model. So all this NIL and all these big dollars that you guys are hearing about, those NIL collective dollars, they're coming down next year because of revenue sharing. And what that basically is I look at revenue sharing as a salary cap. It's just turning into pro sports for the certain schools. So, every school in the Big Ten might get $30 million or $25 million. They could divide it up to their team however they want. That's basically a salary cap. And then you can still earn name, image, likeness on top of it, but they're kind of going away from the massive collectives because people aren't going to give to the collectives if they know the school has $30 million to give to their players already. So it'll probably be the revenue sharing and then probably just more like under the table type things like it used to be 30, 40 years ago. And but with the revenue sharing, they had to pay everybody. So they didn't want to pay a Nebraska who has 140 guys on their team. They didn't want to share the revenue with all 140. So they kind of it almost was 95. I mean, they were throwing out roster limits of 95 at one point, but they settled on 105. And then what's interesting is you don't have to put all 105 on a scholarship. And the Alabamas, the SECs, the Big Tens, a lot of those places it'll be 105 full scholarship players. But then you start looking at these group of 5 schools. Well, they don't have revenue to share. They're opted in for optics. They're opting into this to say we're a part of this. Yeah. And but they don't, their school can't afford more scholarships. Right. So they're just going to still be at the same amount of scholarships, just less roster. And then for us, I mean, I love our university's vision, and Justin's vision is like, we don't need to opt in or out of anything. Like we're just operating. I mean, there's no.
Well, now I have a question on that real quick. Sorry to interrupt you, but this may be for clarity for fans like me who don't fully understand that, because in the opt-in language, the opt-in can also be aspirational, right? Like this is for future growth with the imminent split likely coming again with Power 4 potentially. Now, this is all speculation, but it seems to be right, especially if you follow the train of thought that you're bringing up with respect to revenue sharing, right? Because they don't want more G5 schools to cut in on that slice of the pie with TV rights and the CFP TV deals and whatever money gets tossed around out there. So as far as opt-in, I guess that kind of detracts from your main point, which is just like the vision is the vision. And what does that look like now? Because here's the other side of the coin. There was doom and gloom, but I looked at it as, well, one, Coach Rogers was bound to take a greater opportunity at some point. It happened to come sooner than later. It came when we have a rising senior quarterback who is in the weights, and we had an opportunity to bring some true Blue Jacks guys back, like Coach E, who I got to play for. There's nobody better in terms of developing quarterback skills and seeing the game, and really a student of the game now who's gotten more varied experience at different stops. And he was a head coach himself. So that'll be just a real value add from an offensive perspective. Then you got Vince Benedetto. I was talking to Isaiah Jackson. I was kind of shocked. I mean, this speaks volumes to one, maybe your recruiting ability in terms of being able to rope in some coaches, but also like his love for the program. Because when you're in 75 and sunny California weather,
beautiful out there, man.
All current circumstances excluded, it's still California. It's still ideal year round in terms of temp. But for him to take his family and his young kids and say, I want to set up shop back in Brookings again, that's pretty incredible.
No, and Isaiah is a game changer for us, a game changer hire. And he, it wasn't easy for him. He's at a good school, good place. They valued him. And then to your point, Kyle, I mean, the families, everybody wants to talk about what coaches are doing. Well, you still talk things over with your wife, and your kids mean everything to you. So, Isaiah and I had some really good conversations. I think the cool thing, your point, Kyle, on the timing of this, it's awesome. The timing that I knew that Eric could come back and Vince was ready and he was close, and this is a good move for him. And then Jack, he and I have been through different things where we've bounced ideas or job opportunities off of each other. And then I literally just ran into Isaiah when I was at Idaho recruiting, and I was down in Arizona, and we just ran into each other at multiple schools. And then I would text him throughout the season about different opponents we were seeing. And we weren't, we played against each other. So it's not like, but we kind of were helping each other a little bit last year. So what are the odds that I'm in the Big Sky and he's in the Big Sky? And then, we get even closer, and I'm really thankful for his trust coming back. And he's going to be a game changer. Culture, relationships, special teams. It's pretty special.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much opportunity when adversity comes up, and really it's the growing pains of understanding how to frame it that way. Because, as you're 20, even 30, mid 30s, like myself now, unfortunately, you start to go, okay, well, sitting and sulking or, feeling bad about myself, that doesn't inspire action. And it's just going to get me the same. It's not going to give me any different result. So I think it's really great that the fan base is starting to get behind you big time. I'm seeing. I donated to the JFPA to start to try to trickle down some more stuff. I'm not by any means, independently wealthy, but I do all right. And I would encourage anybody else who's a former player or just inspired to get behind the movement, because it will take a lot more financial support. And that's the other positive. I think this should maybe it creates a sense of urgency around the program in those that are affiliated with it to dip into their pockets or to purchase season tickets or to get to the spring game or to follow, great content like Zimmer, Jackrabbit Illustrated. Just really, that's what this whole endeavor is, to boost the signal and kind of, look behind the lens from a former player's perspective and get X's and O's insights, but really kind of, again, just continue to contribute to the program in any way we can. So
JFPA is, I can't be, the amount of former players that were contacting our guys. I mean, there was a 3-4 day window there where they didn't have a coach. And then even when I got hired, there's time and they weren't here and I couldn't see them. And phone call by phone call, it's like, gosh, I didn't want to go to bed because I knew that there was 25 kids left that I hadn't called. And I knew that kid was like, waiting on a call. And those were a hard few days. But the JFPA guys that stepped up, a lot of the former players that were playing when I was here before stepped up to just like, look, we know, coach. And I mean, even like the Dallas Beanhams, Dallas Beanham, I recruited Dallas still, and there's a few guys like that still left on the team. And, and then from the financial support, the JFPA is booming. And the cool thing is we can take it even much further. And I can't wait. I had to retain the roster. We had to hire the staff. There's still portions of logistical things that I have to take care of. But as soon as I can get in front of former players, I cannot wait. I want to have JFPA events up here all the time. I want to go to JFPA events all around the state or wherever guys are. I want to be on the phone with them. I want them to have even more access to the program that they built. I mean, the reason why the JFPA is successful is because the guys that are so invested in it were here when we didn't have the stadium and we didn't have the indoor but they built it. Like 2012, I got here and this was not a fancy place as a coach. I got here but the amount of names, the Doug Peets, the guys that just were practicing in Fifth Street Gym and trying to get ready for the playoffs. And those guys, because of their buy-in at that time, that's why we won these championships. It's not all of a sudden, boom. It was the dudes 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago that brick by brick did it. And so, I'm really excited to meet and see, because I don't know everybody in JFPA, right? I know the guys from my era and the guys that I've coached, but, I just couldn't be more impressed with everybody. I can't wait to see them.
Yeah, man, a great time to shout out some of those guys too. Of course, Ryan McKnight heading up that whole number. Naito is like a tremendous game changer. He makes a difference, as Stig would say. Adam Fritz, the treasurer. Cam Jones is involved. Nate Koskovich is heavily involved as well. Kyle Minette, I know, has sponsored a lot of tailgates. So there's a lot of, and this is more from the modern era. I'm sure there's guys, Thuy, there's plenty of them out there that span different eras that are really up in the ante for Jackrabbit football specifically. And then you look at the brand, like you said, the foundation that was laid from the Coach Moores, the Meadows, the Eidsnesses and the Coach Lees and all those guys and the players as well. and then yourself in the teens there, really up in the game and the ability of performance on the field to get us to that semifinals threshold and then finally over the hump has translated across the country. I live here in Texas, and I can't tell you how many random national championship hats I've seen of South Dakota State at my gym in Colleyville, or, just stickers on people's bumpers that's SDSU faithful. I mean, it's growing, man. And for a small school in a small town like Brookings, South Dakota, to have 12K in population, to sell out almost every single home game last year, to have the students show up like they have, to have the entire bar scene down there on Main just like going nuts before and after. I mean, the culture has completely shifted in a tidal fashion, and I know you're going to contribute to that further. That's just my little rant there, and I want to circle because you made an excellent point that everybody should know if they don't already. You got to consult with the missus, right? When you're making moves like this. So did you have to say, I heard this quoted somewhere that you had to go to your wife and say, "I'm sorry, Miss Jackson"?
No, but we did. Man, there's some wild. My mom's name is Janet Jackson. We used to say that when I was in high school and we were getting in trouble. We'd say, "I'm sorry, Miss Jackson."
I just figured an outcast,
Hey, outcast. You don't like outcast, I got a problem with you. But we, you know what? My wife was so she's been so cool with all the moves the last few years that this one we're excited about because we're not taking this job with the idea that another job is there. We are taking this job to be here, and we're close to family. And, I don't know. I think Frost was the one that said it, that just sometimes you can be chasing, your goals and those things. And in this profession, you get caught up in this chase of getting to the top, of the ladder that you stop. You forget to stop when you're happy. And we've been happy everywhere we've been. And we've been grateful for the people and the experiences, professionally for me to be able to learn. But we've seen some cool parts of the country. We've done all these things. And now this feels like, all right, we're home now. There isn't, hey, if you win big here, then you go here. That isn't any, I just want to be here. And I just want to be here for these kids. And the amount of people just in the community that have just been like stopping up to my office is cool. And it reminds me of why it was so hard to leave. Nobody that, unless you've coached here, and especially if you work for Coach Stig, everybody in the coaching world was like, why don't you guys leave? For years, our core pieces stayed here. Well, it's hard to explain, but it's hard to explain walking into Cubbies and knowing everybody. It's hard to explain the feeling on a Saturday here, seeing the former players. It's hard to explain just how special Brookings is to people that haven't been here and spent time here.
Yeah, you don't get it unless you experience it. And I think the cool thing for me is like having gone to school there, played there, and then coming back to see the growth and see the sheer investment that has been made on the academic side, because we kind of forget now that they're not necessarily amateur athletes anymore, that they're still going to school, trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do after ball is done, because it will be done one day. Your athletic life is so small relative to all the other things you're going to do. So when you look at the investment they've made in the engineering buildings, in terms of, the medical support that they have through nursing or pharmacy or whatever, you can truly get an outstanding degree at a very valuable rate. In this day and age when college, tuition is skyrocketing, it's remained relatively stable. And then you got good leadership, right? Like to see President Dunn at College Game Day when I went there, or to, just to see even the local businesses like Jacob Limmer, love Cottonwood Coffee,
my favorite
sponsor of the pod. And I'm like, man, why would I waste time drinking Starbucks when there's better coffee out there? But he said, Coach Jackson was in the building. So like, they're even excited about it,
Hey, I go to Cottonwood. I ripped somebody today for bringing me a Starbucks that I said, hey man, this isn't Cottonwood light roast 16 ounce with a little cream. That's like Missy and I, my wife and I used to have Cottonwood coffee sent to us. We'd actually have Haley Rogers send us Cottonwood coffee to every one of our stops.
Let's go. Yeah, they've been a great sponsor of the pod as well. So, they love it. They love seeing the way the program has gone. And he's also a suffering Vikings fan like myself. So,
hey, I'm a Bears fan, buddy. It ain't any better over here.
All right. Well, we can't
even get to the playoffs.
That's right. So when you look at, making this decision and coming back, you've worn every hat at South Dakota State, right? Like you've done it all. And I think obviously that lends itself to success. But I kind of want to get into the psychology of it. Because as you're grinding at your salaries, you're not getting, extreme. You got me there? Did I lose you?
Yep, I got you.
You're not making six-figure salaries. You're not, living a lavish lifestyle. In fact, you pretty much do live at the facility. What was there ever a moment when you're like, man, I don't know about this, and you had to kind of talk yourself off the ledge, or really anchor in, or who did you reach out to? Who was kind of your sounding board aside from your wife? I'm sure that helped you kind of get back on track.
Yeah, the profession has a ton of ups and downs, but I believe the more you put into something and the more you love it, the harder it is. It's gonna be like that way. And I just never wanted to work a job that felt like a job, or if things didn't go well, that you were okay with it, or if things were going well, it was like, I told a bunch of guys that we were hiring on staff that kept asking what's important to you, and I said, loyalty, but I mean that in a sense of, yeah, loyal to the head coach, but loyal to each other, and then loyal to the players and loyal to the community. And when you're surrounded by really good people and you're all in and you give it everything that you had, the wins feel so good. But the losses hurt, so they cut you deep. And, I actually love that. I love the connection, the emotions that come with this game. And so certainly there's been times where maybe not just like on-field performance isn't what you want and that's hurting you, but just, is this worth this? Or people, you see people on Instagram posting their vacations and their free time and their smiles, and you're thinking, geez, I'm sleeping at the office, or what am I missing out on? Nieces and nephews growing up and thinking, I'm missing out on this. But what always brought me back, there's several people I connect with, my Uncle Paul, somebody I always connect with, my brother, my oldest brother, somebody I connect with a ton, to be able to get me steered back straight. But the reality is every time I'm around a player, it just brings me right back to the first day that I coached. And so, having guys stop into my office, seeing them in the weight room and spotting a guy or pushing them or giving them encouragement, those things, when I see these guys and how much they're putting into it, it's just energizing. And I just could never see myself doing something that isn't around them and isn't trying to positive impact and trying to there's just so much for these young guys, for guys to learn. And they're going through such a cool time of their life. I mean, a lot of us can remember when we were going through college and it was a lot of fun, and it was, it's you and your boys. And it's just the 18 to 22 year olds, they're coming into you as a kid. We have an early enrollee freshman here, and my man Miles Green, and he's a kid right now, and he's happy to be here and he's pumped. But when Miles Green leaves here in 4 or 5 years and I hug him on senior day, he's going to be a grown man, and we're a part of his journey. And I want to make sure that when he leaves, he's in the JFBA and he's got connection, and his life has just been totally changed for the better. That's what steers me back.
Yeah, man, that's definitely anchoring in on your why and making sure you have a good support system, because I can only imagine what that's like with those long hours. I mean, 80 hours, 100-hour weeks, and probably more. And it doesn't necessarily stop in the professional world. Like,
no,
I'm traveling to Houston, Austin, San Antonio, so it does kind of prepare you. College football definitely does, for the grind. And every one of those guys is high performers. And that's when I would direct everyone back to the JFPA, because I've had dudes reach out to me that I'm literally in the process of getting placed in high-end medical jobs. So it's a great opportunity just to network, which I think you're an ace at. And that's a good segue into the next thing here. When it comes to recruiting, you're kind of known for being a guy who can rope in top-tier talent. There's a question here about opening up pipelines to Michigan and different spots like that. Talk about the uniqueness of not having the same type of budget that you would at a Vanderbilt or a Power 4 school, and how you kind of have to anchor in spots where we've already laid groundwork or that we already have pipelines built up to kind of manage and be fiscally responsible with your budget.
Yeah, there's first kind of like I do look at like everything we can do at a Power 4 level, we need to do it. And there's a lot of things that we can do. You can get roped into at the FCS or Group of 5 level complaining about what you don't have, and then it can kind of just kill the light of creativity inside of you. It's just we can make better graphics than Alabama if we find talented people and we have better ideas. We can come up with better social media branding than LSU. Why not? I mean, it's just their person has better ideas than ours. No, we can control that. We can control, how we carry ourselves. I told our staff, and once that we're all here, I'm going to tell them again, why did this happen here? Why are we able to get good players? We need to operate out of a position of strength. Why would you not come here? Why? I mean, when I talk to recruits, just give me a reason. Why would you not come here? Is it that you don't want to win? Is it that you don't want to be a part of a community that loves you? What is it? And there's very few reasons why somebody wouldn't come to South Dakota State. And I can, on the flip side, give them a million reasons to not maybe go somewhere else. And so, the recruiting part of it, I do want to expand some. In 2012, we really needed to reach out. When I first got here, we were in Arizona heavy. We were in Florida. We were dabbling in Georgia. And my man Brody probably wants to get back to Georgia, I know. But, we had to do that because, just being honest, full transparency, if we went 1 for 4 in recruiting versus North Dakota State, that was probably good. If we both offered 4 kids and we got 1 and they got 3, that was all right. And that isn't it anymore. We're going into North Dakota and bringing cats down here now. And so, so our footprint needs to be, it's gotten to a point now where, to me, if the best player in Nebraska doesn't get a Nebraska offer and that's his dream, he should come here. North Dakota, same thing. Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas City, Wisconsin. So we've been able to crush it because of our success. Now those battles are different, but we need to use our connections of, if we have, if there's somebody in Michigan that's like a freak show player and we're not on them, I need to know about it, because we then can be strategic. We can't, on your question of resource, I can't send a coach to, somewhere for a week or 10 days to do it the right way, because then I'm pulling him from somewhere else. But we are going to use Isaiah's connections in Arizona pretty heavily. But I'll go anywhere for a good player. But I just need to know about them and then get the background. And so then the transfer portal, you got to be national. You have to, it can't matter so much where they're from at that point, even though we're going to get a little, we're going to be able to utilize some connections from some Power 4 schools in the area to build the roster as we need to. But that's kind of some recruiting thoughts and, position of strength. Why not here? And then I like to ask kids a lot of questions. I mean, a lot of coaches in recruiting, they call a guy and they say that they ask them the same question. You got recruited. I bet, hey, what'd you have for dinner? How's mom and dad? How was school? Oh, the team, big win. Well, if those are the questions you're asking every time you call a kid, you're going to bore them to death, man. I just, at some point in the recruiting process, it just becomes, that's kind of your guy and he's checking in on you. And it's just deeper than the average recruiting pitches.
And I've seen only one other guy do it as effectively as you, and he's actually in the Valley, but he's long in the tooth these days. Coach Spack, he actually recruited me. And he was one of the guys not making those generic calls, but
he's the man. He's good.
Yeah, and he's got a hellacious mustache, but that's neither here nor there. A good question was brought up, and I think this lends itself to another reason why Vince is such a big value add when it comes to recruiting your own state. So your commitment obviously starts right off the bat with hiring guys who know South Dakota, who've been there, and then also one who just came from the high school ranks as a head coach, running all the different things he has to associated with the program. What else is your commitment on top of those things I just mentioned to owning the state?
Oh, it starts here. What I guarantee in terms of the state is I'm going to be out. And so when head coaches can be out on the road, we have an advantage because in the springtime at the FBS level, those coaches can't be out. But at the FCS level, you can be on the road. So I'm looking at South Dakota, the state, as that's my recruiting area. And we'll have assistants that are scouring it. But if there's a good player in South Dakota, he needs to be ready for phone calls from the head coach, texts from the head coach, visits from the head coach. We will do it differently than anywhere else. They're not going to have an option. They're not going to even think about going anywhere else. And it's exciting to see, yes, the boom of the Sioux Falls area with the talent down there. That helps tremendously. But people don't forget when Dallas Goedert was getting recruited. I drove to Britain, South Dakota, and I thought I was lost, honestly, because I walked into the school and it was like kindergartners and stuff walking around. I thought I was in the elementary school. They're like, no, this is the school. This is where everybody's at. Dallas, he comes walking out. So whether it's Dallas or it's Tucker, or it's Taryn or it's Chase Vinatieri or whoever it is from the state, I was a lead recruiter for all of those guys. And then coming from the state of Nebraska, it was just built into me that that's what they always prided themselves on, was getting the best walk-ons as well. And so the best players here, I'm not going to slow play kids. I told Vince, because Vince is my South Dakota guy now. I said, I need a list on Monday of the 10 best South Dakota guys. And we're watching the tape and we're making calls. He's been out the last 3 days. The last thing I'd say on that is we have 6 staff members here right now. 4 of them are on the road and they're in South Dakota. So that is there's good players out there.
There's going to be Rushmore Jacks for you guys to be able to root on, right? Don't think for a second that we're not going to still own the state on that front.
It does help from a transfer standpoint too, because it really doesn't make sense for a South Dakota kid to go anywhere different, especially in the NIL world, because, if you're a good player for the Jacks and we're the biggest thing going, then, there's going to be so many companies and people here that want to invest in retaining the players, and they don't want to leave. They love it here. So
Right. And on that point, I wrote it in the article about the wild times at SDSU, but a lot of bright future to look forward to. And I highlighted the reality that, not every man has to go his own way. But at the end of the day, when you look at the numbers and you look at the portal and you look at different aspects of the way the landscape has changed, unless you're a top dog at the FCS level, like your Wildies, like your Gronowskis, and you've already played a ton of ball at your university, and maybe that next personal goal you have is to kind of up the ante somewhere else and cash in on those guaranteed dollars. I understand that, but I just hope these guys are taking a long, hard look at the reality. As big a competitor as you may be, the likelihood of you becoming a depth piece on someone's program where the leash is much shorter, where you might get canned if you don't go 9-4 in year one, it is a real reality that these kids, hopefully people in their circle are talking to them. Hopefully they got the right folks in line as it relates to NIL, making sure that their future is secured if they do make such a jump. So what are your thoughts on that?
I need to, I think you made a good point of people in their life, educating them. See, we're people in their life, and as coaches, we need to educate. And I think a lot of coaches steer away from even talking about the portal, and then they act surprised when their team leaves. It's like, well, I'm already planning team meetings where it's educational, and I'm not going to steer it one way or another, because I'm going to just show them the facts. And the facts are that 57% of FCS players that transferred up to FBS didn't start. So over half the guys from FCS that went up, they weren't starters. And then of the guys that did start, they all played significantly less reps. So like your point then, not only some guys didn't start or play, then a lot of guys played and were depth pieces. And then, but I'm going to show them the examples of a guy going big and it working out too. I'm not going to just steer it, but just I think it's important they know the percents. And then this is a wild one. 64% of the guys that are in the transfer portal right now, this is their second time in. Well, what that tells me is, I get it. You go ahead, but okay, your coach may leave, or go to one of these places right now and sprain your ankle in spring ball. Well, you're going to get cut, because it's all spring ball is now for the Power Four is just training camp. It's NFL training camp. They got to cut to 105 every year, but you don't have to be at 105 in the spring. That's the catch. So they're going to have 130 or 40 guys on their roster, and then just cut it down every spring. So it's a hell of a risk to leave a South Dakota State where it's proven that we're going to have NFL players, and you don't need to leave to go to you don't have to leave to go to the NFL. It's actually smarter to stay, man. It's smarter to stay.
Proof is in the pudding. I mean, you kind of look at the history, the very recent history Some of those guys you mentioned reaching out to current players are in the midst of Pro Bowl, All-Pro seasons from South Dakota State.
Yeah,
like, if that doesn't tell you how many people are bought in and love this program and university, then you need to check your heartbeat, because that's just the reality of it. And
definitely.
You make a good point when you have to care about the person enough to not rob them of their future and allow them to make their own decisions and just give them all the facts.
Yeah.
With that being said, though, throughout your journey and you're in these living rooms, you're talking to a mom, and this might be kind of a pointed question, but Dan Jackson leaves South Dakota State and goes to pursue bowl games. So bowl games, I mean, they just pale in comparison to the reality of championship football. So and I know, and I'm not trying to disparage your pursuit of something greater when it comes to whether it be finances or, learning more and learning from different people, but kind of what goes through a coach's mind to make a decision to go to maybe G5 or, in meddling power 4 school.
It's the truth. In my experience, I went to Northern Illinois for a couple reasons, just personal experience, is I just needed the growth. I'd been here since 2012. I'd done every job in the program. I knew that I wanted to be a defensive coordinator, and I think that could have happened here. But there was also 4 other guys that could have happened, on staff here too. And so I would say that there was a number of Group of 5 jobs that myself and a lot of our staff turned down every year. Those are the ones you don't hear about, the amount of times that we turned down jobs. But, I left because I believed in the head coach there. It was a program that could win. And to be honest, I knew Eric Eisner's out there too, and I trusted him. And then I just knew in order to get to where I wanted to be, which is here, that I needed to prove that I could do it at another place, because I was going to have the knock of, yeah, he's good. Yeah, he can recruit. Well, he can only recruit South Dakota, or he can only recruit Nebraska, or he can only, coach, these type of guys. Well, we went to Northern Illinois and you win 10 games and, you win the MAC and you beat Georgia Tech. And then you get an opportunity in the SEC as a DB coach and to learn from Clark, who's another jackrabbit, and you're there and it's good. And then you help build that program and put it in position. I mean, I would not know half of what I know about NIL or the transfer portal or of what it's like to build a program if I didn't do that. And, but you also learn along the way, it becomes clear what your end goal is. And then it was clear to me that I needed to go to Idaho with Jason to be the D coordinator, because that was how I would get to this position. And so it was a long answer, but I think there are other guys though, Kyle, that just, I don't know. It's kind of like when a kid gets an offer from a Group of 5 school versus South Dakota State. Sometimes you initially are excited, and then when you do your research, you kind of realize, well, like South Dakota State's a lot better option, and it's not even from a financial standpoint or funding. And so, I think there's still intrigue with young coaches. They think they need to be this guy that bounces around. I'm here to tell you that I am thankful and grateful for every opportunity and experience. I'm also grateful to be somewhere I know I want to be for a long time too.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And what, from your journey, what would you say, whether it be at Northern Illinois, Vanderbilt, what have you learned most about, one, yourself as a person and a coach and the type of coach you want to be, having maybe stubbed your toe or, really succeeded in various areas? What type of coach does Dan Jackson want to be for this program and maybe forever, the rest of your career?
Yep.
And what was like maybe a pivotal moment for you where everything kind of clicked and you were like, all right, this is what it takes to be successful and be the type of coach that can lead a program?
No, that's a great question. Well, I know the coach that I want to be for this program is I want to be player driven, and I want to be somebody that I think you can get the best out of somebody when they truly know that they care about you. And so many people say that, but it's funny because I was talking to Bergie a couple of days ago. Another reason why Bergie's here, because I can have these conversations, is I was talking to him and I just said, man, when I say relationships, and I want you guys to have strong relationships with the players, I don't want it to get misconstrued that everything's just okay and that they can not finish through a line or skip a class. And, it's okay because we have a relationship. That's not it. A real relationship is like, think about how you and your dad or you and your brother or who you and your best friend from your childhood, like talk to each other. That's your real self. that, like, you're not trying to put on a front. But I would say when you're a coach to a player, you got to get to that point with that kid where he's so comfortable with you that it's not a front anymore. You're just, that's real. And so I want to be that type of a coach. And then the X's and O's and the scheme and the competitiveness that fuels you too. But if you don't have the relationship, when something gets hard, everybody folds on each other and it's not a real program. And so starting that way. And then, I mean, I'm going to be an emotional, fiery, excited, competitive dude that has a chip on his shoulder. And so those are things there. And then, I mean, we all stopped. When I went to Northern Illinois, we got hit with COVID a month into me being there, and we got sent home. And then the following season, we played in the fall, but we only got in 6 games. We played pretty much all freshmen. Some of the older guys chose to not play. We had a big recruiting class. I mean, we started 10 freshmen, true freshmen, on defense, and we went 0-6. And at that moment, it's COVID. The world it's just the amount of negativity that's flying is wild. And you go 0-6, and you're thinking, I left South Dakota State to go 0-6 during COVID, and then I'm in Frisco in the spring trying to support my boys winning a natty. And that it was at that moment that you do some self-reflecting. And then what happened the following year at Northern Illinois, just to me, that's like the decision that we made to come out of that adversity. So that's just one example.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm sure there's many others. A question, and I know we're running short on time. We'll get you out of here. I really appreciate it, man. And when you look at various things that you learn from different coaches, obviously you come from the Stig tree. Yep. And one of the strengths that I continue to champion on here, Coach Stig had a very good estimation of himself. And I think you carry that trait characteristic as well. And one of those traits is knowing how to delegate and knowing his own deficits to where he knows how to hire the right assistants, how to defer in meetings, I'm sure, and do various things like that. What are some of the things that you've got the right people in place to delegate?
Yeah, I'm going to need to we have the right people in place to delegate. That's an area I'm going to really need to improve, and not just build on and focus on. Just being real with you is because when you're young and you're trying to get to where you want to be, you kind of, to make a name for yourself in recruiting, well, you just got to outwork and hustle everybody, and you get this mindset, I'm going to do it, myself, and then you're just on this grind and this journey together. And now that you're the head coach, I gotta make sure that I step back and I let Bergie do his thing on the defense while still impacting them. I need to make sure that I can't do, like, I have these camp forms on my desk. Like, this is an example. I have camp forms on my desk, and these are camp forms that I did when I was a GA helping Shannon Moore run the camp. Like, I can't do that anymore. I want everything to be perfect and done, the way you want it done. And so for me, I think the biggest thing is just coaching the coaches, like Coach Stig taught us, and teach them and give them ways to improve, and then listen to them and let them teach you, and let people run with it. So I've felt that already this week, that just allowing people to hire talented people, let them do their job, and step in when you need to with advice or guidance, but set a clear vision. I think if you see, the thing with Coach is, he let us do our thing and he let us be us, but he set a clear vision for it. Like, there wasn't any gray in what the vision was. And so those are things that just being real, man, as a first year head coach, I'm going to have to really focus on. Yeah, no, that tracks. And I think another interesting point for fans or listeners and myself, obviously there's different personalities that you've gotten a chance to work with. And I think, the Jacks have been accustomed to Stig for so long, very accessible, friendly guy, really go out of his way to do anything for you. And that's always been how he's been. Literally, I can't tell you, I don't think I've ever even really talked football unless I asked him a direct question. Yeah. Like, it's always like, how you doing? Or, what's going on in your life? Or like, we were talking about, I reached out to him one time. I was like, hey, I hope gardening's going well for you. Cause I know sounds about right. Just like random stuff like that. But, when you look at Coach Rogers, from Stig to Rogers, you see
stoic, kind of like brutish type personality, and not to disparage him in any way, shape, or form. It's like I love that to an extent. Yeah. But I think also the fan base can be much more encouraged in knowing that you're more of that accessible type. And I think that's going to speak volumes for the fan base, just because I think that's more kind of how the people of Brookings are, maybe the state of South Dakota writ large. But I think it's a great change of pace. Again, something people should be encouraged by. But then you look at guys you've been around who are even, I don't want to say more interesting, but have unique personalities, like Coach Eck, right? So he's maybe a riverboat gambler, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. Big, very spirited dude. What Kevin asked this question of FCS Nation radio. He said, what did you learn from Coach Eck in terms of how he ran his program, and what are some things that maybe stuck with you?
Coach Eck and I have been close since we got here. Funny story. I was living down on 4th Street, and it was right before we Coach Eck had gotten hired, but he hadn't been here yet. It's like 11 o'clock at night, sitting on my couch, probably I don't know what I'm watching, and I get a phone call, and it's like, hey pal, Jason Eck here. Where's my place at? I was like, what do you mean? So this is I'm the corners coach, man. He was like, yeah, Coach Stig said that Coach Stig and Eisen said I could crash with you until I find a place. And I'm like, okay, well, when are you going to get to town? He's like, I'll probably pull in about like 2-3 in the morning. I was like, Coach, I'm going to be in bed. This is my address. I'll unlock the door. I got a guest room in here for you. You can crash. So Coach Eck actually stayed at my house for, I don't know, a couple months, or my apartment when he first got here. That's another example of you never know, right? You never know the relationship that you build with somebody. And then we became real close because we both love horse racing, and we had some funny stories there. We went to the Kentucky Derby together. We're supposed to go this year. I got to look at the dates. I don't know. He's probably nervous that I haven't texted him back about seeing if I can go. But anyways, what I learned from Coach Eck is be you all the time. He doesn't change for anybody. And in terms of the football, I learned so much because I believe that there's a time and a place for aggression, but he's playing to win. Coach Eck plays to win all the time, and you don't have to question that. And majority of the time it plays in his favor, and he's super creative. And he and I always connected on like different ways to do things. You know, I think a lot of times you can fall into these, like, there's one way to win a game. There's one way to run this play. There's one way to recruit. I think we connect on trying to just be creative and come up and be innovative. And the last thing I'll tell you is when, you know, I asked him, you know, like some things after being a first year, you know, I got there his second year, and it was just like, well, or his third year. So it's like, he said he talked to a Hall of Fame coach that was a mentor of his, and he asked him what he regretted. And the guy said, you know, I regret not giving my assistants a better work-life balance. And that marked Coach Eck. And so we grinded at Idaho, and we worked hard, and we were in the office late. But anytime he could find a day to give the coaches with their family, or he could find early afternoon on a Friday to tell guys to get out of there, I didn't always listen at times, but I think you got to give your coaches opportunities to be human beings and spend time with their families too. So I've learned a lot from him, and hopefully I'm going to learn who's going to win the Derby. I hope he's handicapping for me right now.
Love that, man. No, yeah, he's definitely a character. I will ask you this though: are you willing to sacrifice a little bit of creativity just to get the dub?
Yeah. Hey, this is important. I think. So you can have a great defensive plan and super smart defensive coaches and this great game plan, and then the offenses can have the same great game plan and feel good. And Coach Jackson's got the best special teams game plan. But if they're all separate, like from each other, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win. So there's got to be a plan of how do we win this game versus that opponent. And so I want to look at analytics and look at where they're weak or strong. Where are we succeeding? You know, and then you have to form. It's like, what is your people say game plan all the time, but it's like it's all three phases interlocked. Is it running the ball 40, 50 times in the game? Is that going to give us the best chance to win with some creative play actions? Is it us blitzing a lot on defense that game or not? Is it special teams being aggressive? So I'm really interested and excited to, as we get closer to the season, to work with the coordinators on how to build the best plan for us to just get the win. And I like stats, and it's always fun to shut people out and or score 50 points. But, the reality is as long as you win the game, and you came up with the best plan to win, those are things that I'm excited to keep diving into, how to learn how to do that at a high level.
Yeah, the reason that I asked that too is because like the more things change, the more they do say the same. And I think like the formula is there and it has started to emerge and really anchor in from Coach E's days where it's, run the rock well, even though, he had Zach Zenner for a while, right? Obviously, but he also had Austin Sumner. And then you have the emergence of Goddard and Winicky and some of those real superstar playmakers. And it's like, I think, our defense necessarily wasn't up to the caliber maybe of offense back in those days. And then it kind of balanced out, right? Yep. But playing violent physical defense, man, I know the whole fan base. We've been well-fed dogs for the past 2 years, right? Back-to-back national champs. And I think it becomes difficult to find that extra edge and stay hungry. So I just can't wait for this next unit to find that, possess the ball, play great defense, and get wins. And I know you guys will set them up to do so. Last couple questions here. This one's a real simple one. What's your favorite position group and why is it tight ends?
Hey man, I do have Tucker calls me, and I went to a Goddard's game a year ago. So I don't know. I would tell you this. Our tight ends, man, you got to get up here and see some of these cats we got on the team right now. So it's going to be some names that people don't know. And how Coach Eisnes wants to use them. We might be in 14 personnel, brother.
Oh man, don't tease me like that. And then I think, this is a really good question. I think, in this day and age with all the distractions, the chaos of the environment, and then the novelty of being a new college student athlete, Chris Kroc did a great job with the previous staff in terms of kind of setting the tone, framing your approach and your intent each day. Do you have designs on bringing in a mental performance coach?
I do. I think I'm going to be really picky with that job, and really those jobs are invaluable only when it's the right person. And so if there's somebody that lacks the ability to connect, or the message doesn't hit early, well, then it becomes an obligation to the players. When I put that on the schedule, it becomes something they don't want to do or they joke about. And then it becomes, it's going to hurt you. And so I've got a few people that I really trust that have given me some really good suggestions. You have to be creative with those spots too, because majority of college football doesn't build that into a salary pool. So you got to, but I will tell you, we will have mental performance. And I kind of want to take it beyond that. Like a mental performance coach really by definition is helping you perform in the game, right? And teach you tools to, handle adversity or build your confidence, create momentum. What I'm interested in that, definitely. What I'm also interested in is somebody that can connect with our players and help their actual just day-to-day mental health. And if we were all being honest with each other, they're talking to somebody about things that you're struggling with is really healthy. And I want to encourage that for guys. And so I want somebody that can, help them perform better, but also be there for them. And I'm like, as a coach, you become like, they're always going to come to me for everything, and I love them and they love me. Well, that's true, but you still control their playing time, and you still there's things that for him, to go to somebody that's totally unbiased, and it's I want guys to be able to have somebody they can go to about a relationship or stress at school or depression. That is like highest level. So we will, and just got to find the right person.
That's right. Well, my wife is a TCU Horned Frog. She does love the Midwest. If you got an offer pending, I can talk to her. We'll see what we can work out.
We'll figure it out, brother. We'll figure it out. I'll meet with Sel tomorrow. We'll see.
I love it. I'm just giving you a hard time. Well, Coach Jackson,
it's 0 degrees up here too, though. Remember that.
I know that'll be the kicker. No, I appreciate your time, brother. You've always been very available, and I think the program is beyond in good hands. And I look forward to watching you develop as a person, as a coach, and how you get these kids right, because it's a lot more than just football at the end of the day. And I know you're the man for the job on that, and I've told you that offline too, man.
Yep.
So
You're awesome.
All love, man. And is there anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I probably said too much already. No, I just couldn't be more thankful for the support, and I've felt it. My wife and my family has felt it, and it's really been, this has been a blessing in so many ways to be able to come home. And, we are going to work. What I promise you is that team is going to play extremely hard and extremely physical, and they're going to do everything they can to make every Jackrabbit fan proud.
I love it, man. Well, real quick shout out again last to our sponsors. Thank you to the Wild Hair of Brookings, South Dakota for supporting the pod and our endeavors here. Guys, this is a little bit different than Jackrabbit Illustrated. We're a former player-driven podcast. Like to highlight the X's and O's of the game and give you insights in the game, behind the game. So tune in with us. We got a lot of good content dropping, former player features with NFL Jacks that are in the league, like Christian Roseboom and cats like that. So keep tuning in. If you don't mind, like, share, subscribe, do all that if you feel so compelled. And keep an eye out for our blog at Substack. It's all self-funded outside of these sponsors, man. And we do it just to boost the signal because we love the Jackrabbits. So with that, go big, go blue,
go Jack.